Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Welcome, folks, to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. We're heading down to the Carolinas, and we're going to meet up with Aaron Pound. Now, Aaron's got an interesting story. You're going to hear it on the podcast. He's a kind of late bloomer into the hunting world, and there's some really good reasons for that. The thing I caught my eye about Aaron, he's got something special for kids, and he calls it Mission Outside. So, Aaron, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Well, let's just start off the bat and talk about Mission Outside and what it is, why you grew it, and where do you want it to take it?
Okay, yeah, perfect. So to give a little context of why I created Mission Outside, I'll give a little backstory for myself. Growing up, I was the typical kid that was playing sports year-round. Didn't have any family members that hunted, so that wasn't something I was ever exposed to. Over time, I turned into a video game junkie and put myself into an introvert, as I like to say, playing way too many video games. Eventually, my mom said, hey, you need to get out and meet some friends. So in high school, started doing that. Fast forward to after I graduated college. One of my best friends, Brandon Thornton, asked me, hey, do you want to go on a duck hunt when you come home for Christmas Eve? And he's one of those friends that, he could ask you to go sit in a prison cell with him and you'd want to do it because it's a good time. So I was like, sure, let's go do it. And, went out there and had a good time. We didn't even shoot anything, saw some ducks, but really we just enjoyed the outdoors and, kind of socializing out there. And so he planted the seed for me to open my mind up to hunting. Fast forward 4 or 5 more years, a friend, Will Newton, had been asking me, hey, do you want to go hunting? Go to my honey hole. You want to go to my honey hole? After 2 years of him asking, I finally said, sure, let's go hunting. Had a successful morning, and that seed that Brandon planted began to blossom. From that point on, a month later, unfortunately, Will passed away. And it was a kind of one of those out-of-body experiences where I believe his passion for hunting and obsession transferred over to me. And from that point on, I just became obsessed. That's all I did was research, watch YouTube videos, read blogs, and got enamored with how do I become a successful whitetail hunter. I've always had a calling to serve other people, whether it was coaching basketball and for middle school kids or doing charity work with my wife. And so I was like, how do I take outdoors and hunting and give that to somebody else, give that experience? And last year, I kind of just had an aha moment. I was like, well, heck, I'm a kid. I grew up not around hunting at all. Why don't I try to go find those kids that have zero exposure to hunting and introduce them to that? And maybe I can change one kid's life. And so from that, Mission Outside was born.
Now, how do you find your kids? Through churches, through schools, or?
So this is the first camp coming up this summer. And so I'm keeping it to a small group. I want to have no more than 10 kids. Right now, it's between just people I know in business that said, hey, yeah, I got a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid that I want to, get into hunting or at least see if they're interested in it. So right now, it's purely through networking. And I've reached out. I've got, Mission Outside page. And so, getting exposure there as well. But right now, it's primarily just through friends, family, business associates.
Now, if somebody wants to reach you on social media, how would they do that?
So they could reach me on Facebook at Mission Outside, Instagram at Mission Outside, and then Twitter. I have a Beginner Hunters at Beginner Hunters is my handle. So I created that years ago. I knew I wanted to do something to give back to people getting into hunting. At the time, I didn't have a clue that it was going to be Mission Outside or a camp. So I created that handle probably 3-4 years ago and just been sitting on it, waiting until I figured out something to do with it.
Now, you also have a shop I saw on Spotify, on your website. There's a clothing, apparel.
Yes, sir. So so one of the things, or we're doing several things differently at our camp. So when a kid comes in, I don't want them just to come to the camp and then, learn, have a good time, and then leave and go home and not have any tangible items to take home and practice or continue to practice. So one of the things differently is when kids come to the camp, they're actually going to leave with a bow, arrows, a target, fishing pole, things like that. And so I was like, well, heck, I got to fund it. This year I was like, I can fund it. I know my wife's only going to allow me to expend so much money before I got to figure something out. So as my 2-year-old daughter, when she was born, I was looking for onesies and I just couldn't find any that kind of related to how I feel about hunting. There's the 1 or 2 that Bass Pro or Cabela's has. So with my zero design talent, I decided I was going to create a couple designs, and then the missionoutside.com kind of was launched. And so I've been selling onesies and shirts like this, but mainly onesies and toddler shirts for the past 4 months.
Oh, are they all camo or?
No, actually, not one of them are camo on there yet. I've been keeping it pretty basic, onesies that are white. You can get, the Mission Outside shirts in, different colors. But it's pretty basic at this point.
So people come and they buy some of your stuff, huh?
Yes. So we just launched a couple spring onesies and up to 5 T-shirts for turkey. I think it says Spring Fever. And then there's one that has initials. It's more customized with the Easter Bunny. So we're selling those right now. Try to help raise funds for the camp.
And so all the money that you raise, obviously you got to pay for the goods. Yep. But then it all goes to the camp, huh?
Correct. 100% goes to the camp.
Now, if somebody said, hey, I kind of like that and I want to support Aaron, how would they do that?
So they would go to www.missionoutside.com, and there they can purchase products. And then secondly, I've had other people reach out to me just via one of the social platforms, and they've said, hey, I want to help out. I'm willing to donate. I'm willing to give you some, certain gear to help go towards, the camp. And so that's the other way that people have been reaching out and kind of starting the conversation for partnerships, because they're saying, hey, we like what you're doing. We want to get kids in the outdoors. How can we help? So that's been awesome just to see the outreach from the hunting community.
Now, what about crowdfunding? Have you tried that?
No, I hadn't tried crowdfunding. I hadn't even thought of something like that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're natural. I mean, 1, people know you. 2, you have a social media presence, and all you can do. There's no fail in crowdfunding. I mean, if you got $1, you're ahead.
Right.
And that'd be something take a look at, because I think there's enough interest and you could do some fun things with that to generate some interest, especially if you said, okay, we're having 10 kids, 5 days. Total all in, it's going to cost me $20,000, whatever the number is. That's for peanut butter sandwiches and bows and arrows or whatever. But then and lay it out that way and just say, okay, here's what we'd like to do. My wife and I, we've kicked in $5,000. Okay, now we need $15,000, to do it, and you'll be getting videos, blah 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 blah. You know the deal on that. But why not?
No, that's a good idea. Certainly, I've been going the hard route and just really reaching out to people at this point. And Yeah, so yeah, that's a good idea. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, because sometimes we don't ask, and that
No,
hampers us. We just don't
yes,
ask.
no doubt. And see, I'm in sales professionally, so I don't have a hard time asking. And I've really been blitzing, the industry, trying to reach out, find the right players. It's what I do, like I said, in life, and so I'll eventually, get in front of the right people. And honestly, at this point, I've been asking for, I mean, next to nothing. I'm like, hey, just give me a discount on us for one. I won't mention the name, but a camo shirt, and I'll put Mission Outside on it, give it to the kids, and I was willing to pay for it. I just was hoping that maybe get a discounted price type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of good people out there. Obviously, in our industry, the outdoor industry, a gazillion people are looking for handouts and looking, for stuff that they just aren't. They get hit all the time. I get that, but
Yep.
saying that, kids resonate with everybody,
Yes.
because they're the next generation. They're our future of hunting, and if we don't get them involved, um, it's not going to be nice. I mean, because you're what, 32, 33 years old?
Yep.
Yeah. And so you've seen the change just in your own little life. Well, I've seen tremendous amount of change, in my life,
Yep.
and, so anyway, that's kind of an aside, folks, but we're kind of going down this trail because, we need to get involved in kids' life. However, whatever that looks like, however that works for you, we still need to do that, on a one-off, or get with programs like Mission Outside, or there's lots and lots of programs, and you've heard some of them on the show. So, give it a thought, and let's go back to your hunting tradition now, and you mentioned some of it. A couple of buddies, got you involved, but the hunting tradition. What does that mean to you?
So, for me, the hunting tradition. So I believe, one thing that I learned from getting introduced to hunting was that I believe hunting lives deep and down in our DNA and our soul. It's just a matter of, bringing that out. So I wanted to start with that. I would have never in a million years thought I would have been a hunter as, a young kid. But once I got taken and exposed to it, to me, it just felt like a natural thing to where that's all I wanted to do was hunt. But, from a tradition standpoint, I have a good group of friends that, we basically plan our schedules around trying to hunt together, whether that's whitetail hunting in South Carolina, or there's a group of us going to Idaho in September to chase some elk and bear. And so really it's just being around good people, having a good time, and then, trying to put a little meat in the freezer and meat on the table for the family. And that's kind of the way I feel about the hunting tradition to me.
Now, other than the two guys you've already mentioned, were there any other people that were instrumental in getting you a field?
Yeah, so there's a couple buddies. So Joey Page is one. He's given me access to property here in the Carolinas. I always ask him questions for help. He's a successful hunter, so I'm constantly reaching out to him, asking him questions. Another buddy, Josh Plyler, he and I probably hunt together the most. I mean, we plan our schedules, on a weekday. Hey, I'm coming back on time, so plan it around him. And then anytime I go back to Tennessee, my best friend back at home, Brandon Thornton, we always find time to get out in the woods together and have a good time.
What kind of gear do you shoot?
So I shoot a PSC bow. That's bought that one off Craigslist when I first wanted to get into it, and since then I've upgraded, to a newer PSC and been shooting that. Killed my first doe with it a few years ago, and I've had a lot of tough lessons to learn since then. I practice probably 3-4 times a week, and no matter how good you are shooting in the backyard at 40, 50 yards, it's funny when that deer is in front of you, how sometimes you can play tricks with your mind.
No.
Yeah, no. I got bit a couple times this year.
Was it just the deer moved, or you just get target panic, or what happened?
So, yeah, one jumped the string, and I've heard it a million times about them jumping the string. I just didn't think that it could jump it like that. Or when I was shooting, I didn't factor for it to jump. It definitely knew I was there. It was on high alert, and it went right over its back by the time it ducked. And the second incident this year was I didn't factor in wind. It was a 40-yard shot, perfect. I mean, he read the script. and I was but the wind was blowing like 35 miles per hour, and I ended up shooting a little bit too far back on them. Blood trailed them, jumped them up 3 different times, and eventually got to a point where we got to a landowner that we couldn't access to continue the chase. So that was unfortunate.
Yeah, it was. And so let's talk about those two situations. A good teaching moment here. The last one got some wind, left to right. You let go. Hits a little further back. And you can see that right away. So, do you have on your bow? Do you have feathers or anything showing you the wind and how hard it's blown or not blown in direction?
No, I don't have a feather on my bow. I've heard of some other people using little wind indicators like that. I've never actually thought about putting it on there.
Yeah, so next time you go duck hunting, get the underneath, not the really solid, heavy feathers, but the kind of the downy ones.
Okay.
And then you just take that and you take, fine, thread. That's all it is. And I used to just glue them in. I don't shoot a compound anymore because my body's beat up. But, when I did, that's what I did. And that, just a breath of wind will tell you exactly where it is. Well, you get to know, okay, it's just moved an inch. And so the wind's about this much. And then if it goes out straight to the outside, it's going, 20, 30 miles an hour. And it shows you the thermals and it goes up and down. It's really a good trick and simple. It doesn't cost absolutely nothing. So
yeah, I'll have to do that.
You get a feather, you get a piece of, I use black thread. You can use yellow thread, doesn't matter. And then you just glue it on there. You don't even have to tie it on because it's no weight. It's minuscule. Yes, there is some weight, but it's minuscule. And then you can see the drift, and then you say, at that angle, I'm not going to shoot. Because at that angle, that distance, I'm just not going to shoot. Not going to shoot my bow. And so as you go through and process, you pick up little tricks. And you go, okay, here's my go and no go. Because probably if you realized it and had played it all back, you wouldn't have shot that arrow.
Yeah, the wind was howling pretty good, and I kind of zoned out. You know how it is when you get focused.
Well, sure. It's understood, but those are little tricks that all of a sudden you say, no, he's going to walk because it just isn't the right situation. And we've all injured deer, that happens in archery hunting for a lot of reasons. I've injured elk. I hit him too high, hit him perfectly. I hit him in the top of the lungs, and he didn't bleed a lot.
Wow.
And he went to a different ranch, and the story there.
Yep.
And that's the way it happens. And you think about that. Now, what was the other situation where you jumped your string?
Yeah, so there was a couple does, and the first one busted me, and the second one kept walking, and then all of a sudden she stopped. She alerted off the first doe, and then just looked right at me, and I was at full draw, and it was like a 25-yard shot, and when I had the Tacticam on it, on my bow, and just she dropped, and it went right over her back. So,
isn't it amazing how they do that?
That is unbelievable to me that they can do that. I can't get over it. I've heard about it and seen it on TV, but you just don't think they drop that much when you're in the tree, but they do. It's mind blowing, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we're predators, and one way to get away from predators is to do that.
Yeah,
I don't know who teaches them though. See, that's the thing I don't know. Do they go to school, a YouTube channel, or what?
Yeah, they got their own YouTube channel. That's funny.
Well, think about it. Who teaches them? Okay, when you hear thunk or whatever, you gotta drop.
They have a Bruce on the Hunter Rendezvous that's teaching them all about hunters and how to avoid them, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, but that'd be interesting to ask a deer. I don't think they'll tell us, but
no, I don't think so either.
My best story on that whole thing, we're hunting mule deer hunting, and I was hunting benches in Colorado, and I was in a really good trail. Everything was right, and I was in a tree stand. And yes, you can use a tree stand out in Colorado. That doesn't have to all be on the ground.
Yeah,
it's no secret, but guys been doing it for years. But anyway, having said that, so I could see he's coming up, and I could see his horns. It was just a nice, 4x8 pointer, you'd call it. And he just coming up, and I'm, so I'm just locked in probably 40 yards. And that sucker knew I was there. I don't know how, but he knew I was there. And so I got set up, and he's walking. I'm right behind his shoulder, right exactly where I want to be. And so, I let her go, and that sucker spun.
Oh, wow.
He spun, so I hit the off shoulder. So
Really?
the left shoulder became the right shoulder. And I was going, my jaw dropped, and I went, are you shitting me? No, because he completely just spun. By the time it took from the arrow to get the A to Y, 300 feet per second-ish, 40 yards, that's no time at all. But he completely spun. The arrow just kind of glanced and was flopping. It didn't penetrate. And then he went back the way, he came, I went, and found the arrow, he just walked off. But I'll never forget that, how fast that deer spun inside out. And the shot was good. I hit right where I wanted to hit it.
That's crazy.
I know, but think about that. That was, we're talking about predators and how they know what to do. That guy, one, knew something wasn't right. As soon as he heard that thunk, he'd been probably shot at before. And he just spun in place. I mean, inside out. And I'll never forget that. It's like, how can they do that?
Yeah, I know. That's amazing.
So you're going elk hunting. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I went elk hunting a few years ago, and I got completely obsessed with just being out in the mountains, being on public land, going down that whole road, doing something different in the whitetail world. And so I went with 4 guys then, and we're returning, plus adding 2 more, going to the Sweetwater National Forest. And the one thing I love about it is that I wasn't necessarily in the greatest of shape until my wife gave me for our anniversary my first elk hunt. Ever since then, health has been a big thing to me, and I really believe it's because it all started with that mountain hunt. And ever since then, it's like I'm working out all the time, doing legs twice a week, trying to make sure I'm in shape for those hard hills in Idaho.
Now, where is the Sweetwater? What's kind of the biggest town around there? I'm familiar with the Selway.
We fly into Lewiston.
Okay.
It's about an hour and a half away from there. And then it's quite the drive once you get into the national forest.
Yeah. You'll have fun.
Elk River, I think, is the nearest city. That's where all the people live near there.
Up in Elk River?
Yep. So we're looking forward to it. It's we're going with Shattuck Creek Outfitters. It's a family-ran business that my buddy has got, that Joey Page, who I mentioned to earlier, has been going to for years, and they're an awesome group of people and family, and so and they know their business, and so it's nice to go with them and kind of learn the ropes of the Western hunt, since I'm not that familiar with it.
Yeah, well, it's just be ready to get your butt kicked.
Ooh, you're telling me. That was an eye opener of that first elk hunt. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to watch these guys, and they think they're big and tough, or small and wiry, or it doesn't matter. And if you haven't experienced it, I don't care how good a shape you're in. Mentally, it kicks your butt because it's so hard.
100%. Yeah, the mental part is the hardest part, I think, to get over. You gotta go in there with the right mindset. That's for sure. And the people that one of the guys I know, he's got one of these can't quit attitude, and he does really well. You can tell he's in pain, but he won't quit, so he keeps powering through it. And if you have that kind of attitude about yourself and mental capacity, you'll do just fine. That's one thing I've learned out there.
Yeah, and the best thing, the longer the hunt, the better your odds.
Yes.
People break down; they just physically break down, and so instead of having 6 guys in the field, you've got 3 guys or 2 guys.
Yep.
And then you get the whole, their whole thing. They go, okay, this guy can hack it. We're going to go over, Jim Bob's honey hole, and we're going to see if we can get an elk out. Exactly. Well, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
And a lot can be said for that on the whitetail side. If you think about whitetail hunting, it's, you go out to, I don't know if you're in suburbia, I just saw a squirrel in your backyard, but there's some critters probably not too far from you. There's white-tailed deer. Okay. But we take them for granted. Well, I'm going to go out and see if I can get a deer tonight, and so many people take their 40, 80, 160, whatever for granted, and they don't hunt it like they paid $10,000 to hunt that land.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
So I completely agree with that. I do. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of access around here. It's and the people that do, it's hard to get permission on it. I mean, I was reaching out for permission just for hosting the camp, and I was even struggling to get access for that. So we drive an hour to go hunt, and that's about as close as you're going to find good property to hunt. And that's typically timberland, timber-owned properties. But yeah, I do know. So some of the people I know that own 40 acres, they just go to the same spot every single time. They don't actually utilize and think of strategies of how to best utilize that 40 acres. And I learned this year I had access to 37 acres with my friend Joey, and it was interesting to watch that you can come up with a strategy for that 37 acres and make it and utilize the whole thing to become successful and actually harvest the deer. And so that was interesting because I've always had the 1,700 acre strategy, and this year was the first time I've actually had to hunt or got the option to hunt 37 acres.
I'm talking to a guy in Wisconsin today, Cliff Hamlers, and he's close to La Crosse. And anyway, he's owned a 40 for 20 years or something. Every year he takes a $150 off of 40.
Wow. Yeah.
And 30, what did he say? Out of 40 acres, like almost 30 acres is all sanctuary.
Really?
Yeah. So that's strategically, and obviously where the sanctuary is, that's where the food is too.
Yep.
But it makes it so easy for them to live. And then he only hunts, obviously you can hunt north, south, east, west. And he figures it out where he's going to hunt. And he only hunts 1 or 2 days a year.
Oh, wow.
So that's, that's taking it.
Hunt that little.
Well, but you think about it, that's what he does. And the rest of the time he just takes care of his deer. But I submit to you, Aaron, and all our listeners, think about your 40 acres and strategically figure out, okay, how can I maximize this for the biggest deer in the area? And not be a 150, a 125 might be the biggest deer, and that's okay. It is what it is. But then figure out, and again, I go back to, people spend thousands of dollars coming out west and hunting, or, I was talking to a guy earlier this year, $6,500 to hunt his ranch, in Kansas, just for one whitetail. And it's worth it. He's got big deer and everything, but hunters spend a lot of money. You and your crew collectively going to spend a boatload of cash.
Yes.
And God bless you. I'm thankful for your wife to let you hunt.
Me too.
Well, you think about that. You just think about, what impact we have on local economies, but you bring it back home. And if guys would really think about their local, where they hunt, and not just, I'm going to go out to the stand, sit there tonight for a couple hours and see what happens. That's the wrong mentality, in my opinion.
I completely agree with that, 100%.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, other lessons learned. We talked about jumping the string, and I don't have a solution for that except to let them know you're there. Hunting in the wind, there's a couple there. What about some of the other things lessons learned that you're taking forward and applying?
Yeah. So one of the lessons learned that for me is, defining success. And I know that's not necessarily exactly hunting that's going to make you more, kill more deer. But that was one thing I learned. I had my own definition of success, and you got to make sure you don't judge other people's definition on what success is. It may be, whatever the first deer that walks out in front of them, or maybe it's a booner. And, social media at times, I think kind of can hurt people and make them think they have to kill a booner. When you hunt in South Carolina, the biggest deer on the property is 137 inch. And so that was one lessons learned that for me was I had to get over that piece. And then, wind. I'm a stickler about wind. And I remember one of the first years of hunting, the stand would be good for wind, but I wanted to take the shortest route, and the shortest route wasn't the best way with the wind. And I couldn't get over why I couldn't see any deer. And so I remember the next year I was like, I'm going to change this up. And he took the long route in where the wind was always in my favor, never was going to blow to where I thought the deer were going to come from. And it was crazy to me, the amount of sightings, the amount of deer I saw once I changed that little bit of strategy in my hunting.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
No, they know you're there.
Yeah, they do. I really believe they do. They pattern us just like we pattern them. I'm confident in it.
Yeah, and I like the point you brought up. I think of some of the stands that, there's some hard ways into the stand and easy ways in the stand, and the best way into the stand. So you have to sort that out. I've stopped hunting some stands. If it isn't right, I'm not going to hunt that stand, even though I know there's good deer in that area.
Yep.
And I'm not going to hunt that stand because I've had too many deer bust me, or just, you see them cruising through, but they're not in close. I can't get a shot at them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'll go if I have, A, B, and C where I like to hunt. I know there's good bucks. If the wind's not right, I'll just go to a new spot and sit on the ground, just because I don't have a stand there, just so I won't mess up, one of my primary spots. And, it's important. I think people try to force the subject, like, well, I'm out here. I got to go hunt where, this big buck is, where he was on camera 3 times. And it doesn't typically work out for them.
No, it doesn't. And I think, and I'm guilty of it. I want to go hunting. You get all juiced up and say, oh, man, I want to get out there. I want to get out there. Well, that might be the wrong thing to do.
Yes. Sometimes, things aren't in our favor, and it's just best just to take a day off. In my case, spend it with my wife and 2 kids. And so I've been, I was hunting 60 plus days when I didn't have kids. And since I've had them, I've had to be a little bit more selective. My wife is friendlier and more forgiving than most wives. And I still get in over 30 hunts during a whitetail season, probably another 15 during turkey. And so I've learned to be a little more selective of which days I'll go. And if it's hot, I'm just, I'll pass. I'd rather burn that day another time when the weather's, more in favor of the hunter.
Well, you should probably put that out on social media, because a lot of guys and gals too, there's some passionate, focused lady hunters that just, they're on fire.
Yes.
And it's kind of, you get deer fever and everything else goes out the window. And unfortunately, that might be not the right course of action.
Right. No, you're right. My wife, she's quick to let me know if I've hunted too much. She'll be like, "Hey, it's time for you to take a day off too." So she was not afraid to tell me at the same token.
So let's, you're in your 30s. What are the 3 or 5 things that you've already learned about hunting that are helping you at work, helping you develop relationships with other people? What are those things?
So I'm glad you asked me that question, because I was just sat in front of a board last week, Lee County Wildlife Club, sat in front of them, and I mentioned there's a lot for kids, and I'm going to take this back to the kids aspect, because I feel it from my perspective. There's a lot to be learned there to become a hunter. I travel around, meet Fortune 500 executives, $100 million to $1 billion companies as well. And a lot of them are outdoorsmen, and a lot of them are hunters. And, I think there's some things to become a successful hunter. You got to fail. There's a lot of failure involved in becoming a successful hunter. You don't just get to go out there and harvest a deer every single time you go. There's strategies. You actually fail. You learn, figure out what I did different. What do I need to do differently? So there's that aspect in it. There's persistence. I typically think successful hunters are out-of-the-box thinkers. And, those things all play into, being a leader, becoming, in my case, a business person. I truly believe it's helped me. And then, lastly, the networking aspect of it. Hunting has helped me network in my own professional career, or being an outdoorsman, it has helped. And, what can be wrong with that, getting kids into the outdoors? That's always when I have a parent that says, I don't think I want to get my kid in it. I mention those things about failure, success, persistence. out of the box thinker, you're a strategizer, and then networking. And it's interesting. Typically, I can see the light bulbs go off in the parent's head, and I'm like, I can give you real business people that are successful hunters, and I think it directly correlates to success in your own career, whatever that may be. Whether you're the manager of the mechanic shop or you're the vice president of supply chain for a Fortune 500 company, I think it directly correlates.
Yeah, well, this man, I can attest to that because I don't know if I work like I hunt or hunt like I work. Nah, I work like I hunt. I work like I hunt. And, I've got my butt kicked more than once. I mean, it's just, but then you stay after it. See, that's the persistence part of it.
Yeah, you're not a quitter. So that if you're a hunter, you're not a quitter. There's some of the hardest working people I know are hunters. And those are traits that that anybody, no matter what you do, it's just all positive traits.
Yeah, because sometimes it's real easy to stay in bed. I can think of times in Wisconsin it's below zero. I'm going, and I don't go. I have some backup stands that I don't have to go, quarter mile from the bunkhouse, but I'm in deer. I mean, I see deer every time I go back there. And you think about the persistency of it, and then you think of adaptation, because whitetails are true. They'll adapt to us. They'll adapt to their terrain. Like I said, right there in Charlotte, there's deer in the city limits of Charlotte. I'm sure there are.
I see them in my front yard every few days. They're here. You're right.
Yeah, and so you think about that.
Giant bucks are here as well.
You can't shoot them though.
No, you can't shoot them. It's frowned upon in city limits. It's crazy what you'll see out here. I mean, I'm talking about giant, massive bugs.
Put a trail camera out there. Do you have a trail camera out there?
I don't, and I should, because I have a creek that backs up.
Oh yeah, you got to do that. You got to do that.
I know.
And start.
I should, but I'm afraid somebody's going to steal it because kids will play through there.
Lock it in. Get one of the lock boxes and bear boxes or whatever now. But that would be so cool. Say, here's Jimbo. He's on my hit list.
Yeah.
He's 20 feet off my deck.
Yeah. Well, so this year I hung up a deer in my backyard and cleaned it out. And my wife was like, "Oh, the neighbor's going to call the cops on you. They're thinking that you killed one of these deer in the backyard." But no, I definitely didn't do that. So
that's funny. Well, anything more to add? We're kind of at the place of the show. We've been at it 40 minutes or so. I sure, call me when you get out to Colorado, at least to say hi.
Okay.
I love that. And the other thing, I've done a little bit of hunting in the West. So if you have some questions, you're on the Sweetwater River, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it goes right through there. So, you're in tough country. It's not easy country though.
No, it was tough. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, well, again, I appreciate you having me on, bringing the exposure to Mission Outside and what we're trying to do. I would probably close with, two things from my end. For the whitetail hunters, there's plenty of us that are great at getting kids in the outdoors, but I do see on social media, I'm tagged out, done for the year. And I put it out there a couple times and challenge them, say, hey, don't be done for the year. Let's ask a neighbor, hey, do you want your kid to go hunting? Find a kid and take them out there and just let them see wildlife. If they don't want to hunt, just let them go out there and experience it. So that would be one thing I would challenge your listeners to do. And then, secondly, from a whitetail perspective, it's primarily on the eastern half of the U.S. It's private land. And I think we need to focus on, public land as well, even though we're whitetail hunters, and I've been hunting private land since I've been hunting. And I just want to say, let's keep the public land access and opportunity, in our mind, and help support, keeping public lands in public hands. I'm a member of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and on their leadership board for the state of North Carolina if they're starting up, and it's opened my eyes up to a lot of things. And so yeah, I just want to encourage, because I talked to a lot of hunters here in the Carolinas, and I asked them to help join in, and they're like, well, I'll never hunt public land. And I think we are all seeing that land's going away. I mean, they're building. You go to Charlotte, I'm telling you, they're building every nook and cranny, every 50 acre, 100 acre, parcel. if you find 300 acres, it has a for sale sign, zone commercial. And so we're losing access. And, I think about getting kids in, and I also think about a few generations down. I want my kids' kids to have access, and I want public land to be one of those opportunities that they have to hunt. So let's fight to protect that for generations to come.
Well said, Aaron Town. This has been fun. I've enjoyed talking to you and hearing some about your stories, 2 about your mission, and 3 just the type of guy you are. So you're welcome on the show anytime.
Yeah, Bruce, I thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good talking to you, and I'll definitely keep in touch.
Coming up next is a good friend from Iowa, Brandon Downs. And Brandon, a crew of his started Trophy Bucks of Iowa. What is Trophy Bucks of Iowa? We'll just go to Facebook and type in Trophy Bucks of Iowa, and you're going to see pictures. They're not all wall hangers. No, it might be a doe, it might be a spike, it might be a young kid, it might be a mom, it might be a dad, it might be a grandfather. But they're all whitetail hunters, and each and every photo is a trophy, especially to them. And so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about what's happening in Iowa and the trophy potential that everybody knows about. Well, there's some trophy potential on public land. And if you're willing to do some work and do some DIY, and there's opportunities there. And Brandon's not going to give away any honey holes, but he's going to give you some insights that you might want to think about. I know it's hard to get a tag in Iowa. It takes 4 years or so for an archery tag, but if it's going to be a lifetime shot, Iowa's a great place to go.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.